2 o'clock. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to our featured speaker panel. It's going to be a conversation moderated by Miss Carlene Thomas, who was with TEA just a minute ago and is now doing consulting and speaking all over, and she has so much experience to share with us. So I'm so thrilled she could join us for this conversation today about elevating the role of teachers of EB and multilingual students. I'm so excited to have this conversation today. And Carly, I'd love for you to get us started and carry us through. And I do have one change to announce. Mr. Jim Baker, principal at Lewisville High School, is being principal today. Y'all know everything was rescheduled after all of the ice this week. So he's on a soccer field, I think, being the administrator on hand, and could not be here with us today. I do have some of his thoughts to share later through our conversation, but I'm thrilled that one of our teachers from Lewisville High School, with just 48 years of experience, Miss Rita Lasuzzo, is going to be able to join our panel and volunteered to do so last minute. So I appreciate you being here, Rita, and thank you, Carly. Thank you, all of our panelists and all of our TexTESOLV 5 members for joining us for this conversation today.
Yay, thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you, TexTESOLV 5, for setting up this wonderful event today. And also, of course, this particular session. Just so excited to be a part of it and to facilitate this conversation with such wonderful people that are here to participate in the panel. We're going to start by just giving everyone a quick chance to introduce themselves, tell who they are, what their role is, in a quick bite. We're going to start with Peggy Semingson. Will you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm on the TexTESOL 5 board, and I'm currently an associate professor of TESOL in linguistics and TESOL at UT Arlington. I've taught in Austin and some other districts in Texas.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. Your perspective in higher education is going to be really vital to this conversation. Rita, with a little notice hopping in and joining the group, will you share and introduce yourself?
Yes, I teach at Lewisville High School. I'm a senior teacher with sheltered classes, and I've been, teaching 48 years. So I've taught from first grade through college.
Wow, talk about a wealth of knowledge right there. So we're going to be hanging on your words for sure today, Rita. Thank you for being a part. Emma from Region 10, will you introduce yourself, please? Oh, wait. We don't hear you, Emma. You're muted. There you go.
Hi, sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emma Selig, and I am the program coordinator for multilingual support services at Region 10 ESC. And we support all our LEAs, about 140 of them, any grades K through 12 with professional learning and any technical assistance that they need. So I'm happy to be here today.
Wow, big job, Emma. You guys do great work there at Region 10. So thank you for being a part of the panel today. Terri, will you share and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Terri Watson. I'm the ESL Instructional Coordinator for Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD. We're a suburb northwest of Fort Worth. And this will be my 29th year in the district, 10 years in the role that I'm in now.
Wow, great experience there to pull from as well, and for your leadership in that area. What a way to grow a program. So thank you for sharing and being here, Terri. All right, Megan from Coppell.
Hi, I'm Megan Butkovich. I am the pre-K through 12th grade ESL bilingual instructional coach for Coppell ISD. I previously taught elementary school in Lewisville ISD, and I've been in Coppell ISD. This is my 4th year, and I was previously a language acquisition specialist.
Wonderful. So you're on the ground coaching teachers directly. And so I know you are seeing a lot in doing that. So thank you again for being here. Last but certainly not least, Carolina, will you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Carlene Armstrong. I'm the Director of Bilingual Education Programming for Richardson ISD, 20 years in education, multilingual learner myself with experience K through college level. I'm very excited to be with all of you here today.
Awesome. Excellent. What another wealth of knowledge. Are you guys excited? I am. So let's kick off. We have 4 questions that we're going to utilize to facilitate this conversation. Again, focusing on elevating the role of our teachers of emergent bilingual students. Guys, research tells us time and again, and we don't necessarily even need to know from research because we know it to be true. The more that we elevate that role of our teachers of emergent bilingual students, the more we can really lift up their strengths and in turn lift up the strengths of our multilingual learners. So we're starting our first question with, what are the best ways for campus and districts to highlight the strengths of their teachers? We're going to actually come right back to you, Carolina, and I'm going to have you start off that conversation. What are your thoughts?
Gosh, love the question. I think one of the first things is really finding ways to celebrate our teachers, right? I think we always hear think through our students' eyes, but I think it's also think through our teachers' eyes and what is their perspective whenever we're thinking about campus improvement plans, when we're thinking about walkthroughs or any changes in design. I think it's really important to include our teachers, but also celebrate them through professional learning, right? Like use our teachers so they are the ones presenting, sharing what they have found successful. And I think it's a really great way to build capacity, but also find that seat at the table for them that sometimes, we tend to forget when we are managing large scale systems.
I love that so much. And what you just said, talking about celebrating the positives, right? A lot of times our teachers get the wagging finger, right? What they need to improve on, but finding what they're doing well and elevating it, and then using them to be the ones sharing and teaching others. And I also loved what you just said about making sure that they have a seat at the table as decision makers on our campuses and in our districts. Awesome. I'm going to pass it over to you, Terri, as you also lead teachers there in your district. Will you tell us your thoughts?
Right. So I think it's important to make sure that we provide really targeted professional development for the teachers, for the ESL teachers, so then they're able to go back and be the leaders on their campus. So we're kind of a smaller district. And we don't have instructional coaches for our EBs. We have we have ESL teachers on the campus. And so for them to be able to have a leadership role to kind of become the experts on that campus. So just making sure that in my role, I give them the professional development they need to grow them as leaders on their campuses.
I love that. Sometimes they may not have a particular title, right? That's holding the weight, if you will, of authority, right? But when we really help to train them up and utilize them as those teacher leaders, all the better, right? Rita, as a teacher currently, and I'm 48 years of experience doing so, would love to hear your perspective on how do we highlight the strengths of teachers? What do you see that people are doing and what could be done?
I think the main thing is for administrators in the building to recognize personally in the classroom, going through there, seeing the work of the of the teachers and being able to say, yeah, I saw that lesson, that was awesome, instead of just saying, you're a great teacher. I mean, that doesn't tell me anything. So I just think it needs to be a little bit more personal to elevate them, and what everyone said is so true, but get a little bit more hands-on with the teachers.
I love that. Really the same as with our students, right? We have to give them individualistic feedback and celebration. And like you said, we can't really celebrate and lift up and honor what teachers are doing if we're not familiar with what they're doing, right? Being able to actually be present in the classrooms to see what's happening. And if we have more of a hands-off approach as instructional leaders and administrators, we're not able to know the detail of the amazing things that teachers are doing on a daily basis. So we've got to be present. Excellent. Megan, would you add to the conversation on this as well?
Yes, one thing that our district is really great about is we do a lot of campus learning walks. And so we take district personnel and the language acquisition specialists, and we go to different campuses and we look in classrooms. And then we're kind of seeing if they're using the professional learning that we're providing for them to see if they're prompting students to speak in complete sentences, if they're using turn-in talks, if they're using visuals with their anchor charts and modeling sentence stems. And then we highlight those teachers by providing them with a note and having conversations with them, and also showcasing them during faculty meetings and having them share out what they're doing. And I feel like that's really grown all of our teachers and supporting our emergent bilingual learners and working together as a group, as colleagues.
I love that. That's what makes professional learning ongoing and job embedded, right? When the direct training that they've received is then followed through and monitored in a coaching supportive way, right? Where again, it's not checking the box necessarily of, are you doing this? But then seeing that they're doing it and honoring it, celebrating it, shouting it out. And that really provides systemic implementation of the professional learning. Excellent. Okay, well, I'm going to start shifting into the next question. And I'm coming to you first, Emma, on this one. But if you want to tie in maybe a response to the first question as we move into the second, we're going to start talking now about what are the biggest challenges that our schools and districts are facing regarding teacher retention and why, which is pretty related here maybe. So I'll give you a minute to respond to that, Emma.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that we're seeing right now is a lot of our teachers with, we're in a big recession, right? Everything is getting so expensive that some of our teachers are starting to shop around to see who has the highest salaries around, who's offering the best stipends. So we're losing some of our teachers to other nearby districts. And another thing that is coming right now, because some of our smaller districts are having a hard time competing against our biggest districts with salaries. Some of them are getting creative into trying to find new ways to retain our teachers. So we're seeing more in the news, such and such district is now going to a 4-day week. And this is the trend that we're starting to see. A lot of our districts just passed, in our board elections lately, we're moving into 4 days, and now our teachers are looking and like, oh, I can work 4 days for maybe a little less pay or the same, but they're looking for that life balance, right? Because it's so hard being a teacher working all those extra hours just to get everything our students need, that they are, looking for more solutions on how to get that balance. So that is going to be a great challenge right now to retain the teachers for the districts that are not offering that flexibility yet. So something to think ahead and see how can we support, our teachers if we are in a traditional 5-day week district. How do we keep them? I think that's one of the challenges that we're seeing.
Wow, great point, Emma, that you're seeing that across all the districts that you support there in Region 10 and recognizing that there's a bit of a Hunger Games situation going on out there. The districts feeling like they have to really compete with each other to be able to retain and keep teachers. So it's a really interesting struggle, and noticing some of those, again, not just financial, but really that need for recognizing how teachers, along with all of us, really, I think coming out of the pandemic, are really knowing and understanding the need for that life balance, right? What does that look like? Peggy, as you are working with training pre-service teachers, and you have coordinated with districts, I'm kind of wondering about your perspective on this. What do you see as some of the challenges that districts are facing with retention? What are you hearing?
Yeah, I think it's just getting those specialized teachers, the bilingual ESL, the teachers we're talking about. I think it's just getting the people with those niche certifications, with the niche, you got to be certified these days. So just finding people that are highly specialized. And then when you get into things like reading specialist, intervention, those are even harder. And so we end up with large class sizes, which again goes to the working conditions. So I think another challenge is just those highly specialized teachers, and teachers, as they face burnout, may not want to go back to school or retrain or what have you. So just the specialized teachers are in strong demand right now.
Absolutely. And that takes a financial commitment a lot of times, and that can sometimes fall on the burden of teachers to pay for those certification tests and such. So it is very beneficial when districts are able to carry that financial load as well as provide, access to some of the supports that are out there for training and specialization, right? Absolutely. Very good point there, Peggy. Terri, I'm going to pass it to you. What are your thoughts on teacher retention?
I know that we're struggling more with it this year than we've ever struggled before. We've never had mid-year resignations before this year. So just things that we haven't dealt with before, we are dealing with. So it is really important. It is, like you said, the Hunger Games, trying to compete, trying to think about what we can offer, because we're not going to go to a 4-day week. So what are some things that we can offer? What can we do? And the way our district is set up is every single elementary teacher is required to be ESL certified. So that can be a financial burden. So we are making sure that we are helping with things like that, because we require every elementary and then every secondary ELA teacher has to be ESL certified as well. So we are providing financial supports for teachers to be able to get those certifications. And I think that's helping.
Absolutely. Wow. I think that's amazing that you're able to provide that, right? So that the standards that you're upholding in your district, you're saying, if this is what we're going to require of our teachers so that we have high quality instruction, we're going to back it, right, with the types of support that they need in order to do so. So I think that's really powerful. Carolina, will you share a little bit about what you're doing in Richardson?
So I'm thinking about particularly our teachers, right? Bilingual teachers, ESL teachers, world languages teachers. What they do on a daily basis require a different skill set than our teachers that are teaching content, not to demean their work, but it's very different when we're talking about the fluidity of language, the understanding and the nuances of like cultural differences and the supports of the students that the students that they serve need. So I think they feel that pressure, that going above and beyond. And for us, it's been very important to really provide that additional system of support, right? It cannot be that cookie cutter professional learning. It's not just about sit down and learn some strategies, but also how we're building a community of educators that can rely on each other. They can build on each other and connect to feel that support, because sometimes it's not going to be so much about the compensation. We offer a very competitive stipend to our bilingual teachers of $6,000. But if my teachers don't feel appreciated, valued, and that they have the tools they need to be successful in terms of resources, but also time that is allocated to them so they can plan and come together, the money is not going to be enough. We have people driving long distances to come to us, but some others that just feel like it's not enough. So I think we have to think beyond that traditional approach to its compensation to what are some of those approaches that we can take to support them on a day-to-day basis, knowing that schools have their own constraints and their own structures, but truly building that community that is going to help them to feel supported and engage in something together.
I love that. Building a family community, right? A strong place where they feel emotionally connected. It's the same with our students, right? We could be giving all of the best methods of teaching and high quality instruction and all those fun things, but if we're not helping them feel safe, comfortable, valued in the classroom, it's hitting a brick wall. And it's the same thing with our teaching staff, right? So it's very powerful there, what you just said about how to really build that community where they feel supported. They have time embedded. We can do this not just with touchy-feelies, but with systemically building in time for planning, time for coordination, time for facilitated conversations and planning. So excellent points. Megan, do you want to add to this as well?
Yes, we also really work hard to work with our coaches so that they can work with all of those teachers that are trying to get their ESL certification, because we also require that all of the teachers in our district be ESL certified. And so by having them meet with them during conference time and work with them on planning their lessons and kind of adding those sheltered instruction strategies into their lesson plans, those teachers can be successful on their own. And then whenever they go to take that assessment, they're successful and they're able to pass those tests. And then we also do reimburse them for those assessments as well. So just really trying to build them up and promote them so that they're able to be independent and support emergent bilinguals on their own through the coaching process.
Love it. Actionable coaching, right? That not only supports them in passing required assessments, but with the application in the classroom and following through on that. Well, certainly last but not least, Rita, I really want to get your perspective on this. As a current classroom teacher, what keeps you there? I mean, you've been in education 48 years, lady. That's pretty amazing. Okay. And you're still in the classroom, knocking it out of the park, directly on the front lines with our kiddos. What's keeping you? What is it that you see with your colleagues that supports retention?
The main thing is the community that I have at Lewisville High School. I have a team that I can rely on and I can go to, and we go to each other, we share. And when you feel connected, it's so much better. Your life is better. But I've been in places where you're on your own island and you don't have anybody. And that is a very isolated, lonely feeling. And that's why I moved schools. I move whenever something like that occurs to me, I move because I want to start over again. And I love new ideas all the time. Sarah can tell you, I'm actually going to try something Monday that I heard today, but I like to try new things and that keeps me motivated. I look for new things to try to interact with my kids. And I think teachers will stay in a position longer if they have the support of everyone around them, including the APs and the principals. Yeah.
Excellent. I love what you said there. Community commitment, right? Or connection. I'm sorry, not commitment, but connection is at least a commitment, right? So the community aspect, that feeling of I've got a team, right? Veronica just put in the chat, takes the village, right? So having that community feeling supported by everyone, and the connection, right? Where I'm not alone in doing this. And that's what really leads to that commitment, where you're constantly growing and learning. So excellent. Oh, okay. Well, we're going to move on to the next question. But I'm really enjoying all of your responses. And thank you also for everyone who's popping things into the chat. So love that you're able to add to the conversation in that way as well. All right. We're going to take it to you, Peggy, as we start question number 3, we're really focused on really in higher ed perspective here with what do teachers get from teacher preparation programs and what do they still need? So what do you notice as some of the strengths of our ed prep programs and where might we be lacking?
Yeah, so I think we do a good job in higher ed of what I call nuts and bolts, just kind of getting a baseline of information. Most pre-service teachers are extremely novice. And so just getting them launched, I guess, with that basic hit the ground running kind of information, teach your basic subjects, manage your instruction day, how to teach diverse populations. And then statewide, there's been a bigger push for all teachers to be ESL certified. And we all know that being certified doesn't mean you can do it. So got to have that ongoing instruction. And then still need, I'd say, just ability to really differentiate, stay current, find curricular resources. ESL bilingual teachers teaching multilingual, emergent bilingual are constantly having to create their own curriculum. And that speaks to that retention issue. And that's invisible a lot of the time. So helping provide curriculum, not giving one size fits all curriculum and saying, here's your textbook for ESL, teach, everybody from here to here. And then also just providing those safety nets for like students who didn't get formal schooling or came here in 11th grade. What do we do? So yeah, there's a lot. I'm going to put my notes in the chat.
Oh, yes. Thank you for doing that. I'm sure people enjoy reading all those details that you've provided there, Peggy. And I love how you mentioned, really in higher ed, yeah, we're hitting the checkbox of all the nut and bolts, the things you need to know, the pedagogy and the theory and all of those things. And in a sense, kind of refer to our dear old crashing, it's like we've got the learning, but we're missing the acquisition. And when it comes to really then the practical application of the role that our teachers have to play with, y'all remember the old school Inspector Gadget, right? And got to have all these magical arms to meet the needs of every kind of student, right? And I think that's what I'm hearing you say, Peggy, is really need that ability to differentiate and to have the appropriate tools to do so without having to create it from scratch, in the middle of the night. Emma, I'm going to toss it over to you and hear your thoughts on this question.
So I think one of the things that we're seeing is that application piece as well, because they're getting all the theory, all the information, and they're able to just learn everything. But once they actually get into the classroom and they have to apply, and they have 20 something kids just looking at them, expecting them to teach them something, and to be able to differentiate between all our language level, academic levels, our different needs that we have in a classroom, that's where teachers struggle. And that's what we see when we have professional learning, because we're trying to, provide them with these strategies to be able to meet the needs of everyone. And it is hard because they feel like, okay, what am I missing? Because I feel like I went through all of this information, all this knowledge that I learned while I was in college, but then I feel like when I get in the classroom, it's not enough. But it is just that practice, right? Even though sometimes they have the teacher internship or the practicum, I feel like it's still not enough. They don't know the reality once they get in the classroom on how to plan their lessons so that they are able to make that impact and be able to achieve that academic achievement or the language acquisition piece. But it is just so crucial to have that opportunity to practice and to just build that community of learning and collaborating with others so that they can feel that they're not alone.
Absolutely. Sharpening that knife, right? And, what I'm also really hearing there is that need for kind of finding the commonalities. If I learn how to support students with dyslexia, how to support students served in special education, how to support my emerging bilingual students, how to support GT, right? And I have all these different buckets. And maybe what we're missing is the connection of foundational tier 1 instruction that provides access to all students at varying, backgrounds and proficiencies and all those types of things. Very good. Absolutely. Rita, I'm going to toss it back to you real quick because, I'm sure you see those new bucks coming in fresh from college, some of your colleagues. Well, how are they doing? How are they faring? What do they need?
A lot. They're unsure, they know what to do. They know the framework, like you were saying, but then when it gets to the application is where they start struggling, because they have so many different ideas from everybody and they have to find themselves. So what I did my first 3 years of teaching about, I was my supervising the teacher. What would Miss Clark do? I remember thinking that so many times because I was relying on what she did, how she controlled the kids to help me more than I knew everything I needed to know. I just didn't know how to do it. And I would rely on her. She didn't know that, but she was my teacher for about 2 or 3 years till I felt like I had it under control.
I love it. Hey, that's modeling, right? That's modeling it. And it's kind of a scaffolded release, right? It's kind of being like someone else until you can kind of figure it. Like, I love what you said, finding yourself, right? We all have different personalities and methods and ways of doing things. And so, yes, I'm going to take from everyone, but then internalize it and do it in a way that makes sense to me as a single, an individual. Terri, what do you think? What do you think on this topic?
I think work with new teachers, I think the support is critical. And then I also think, like what Rita said, they know things they don't know they know. So trying to, just like with kids, we want to build on those assets, like with that new teacher, finding some strengths and then building on that strength. Because they do come with a lot and they come with the passion. And I think it's so critical that we keep young teachers in the field, whatever support they need. I just keep hearing all those reports about how fewer and fewer undergraduates are going into education. And that scares me as a coordinator, because I want to see young teachers continue to come. I want to make sure that our profession continues to grow.
Absolutely. That is so vital, Terri. I think it's really important that we recognize those strengths of our teachers. Sometimes, like you said, they may not realize, oh, that's what that was, what I was doing naturally, really in my intuition. And the more we point it out, they're like, oh, well, now I'll do it on purpose. right? Megan, what do you think?
I feel like I've noticed that a lot of new teachers really want to just support all of their students and give them everything that they need. And so a lot of the times they kind of rush to put them in the MTSS or RTI process, especially with emergent bilingual students. So just really kind of teaching them some data points to look at and some tier 1 strategies, because those tier 1 strategies are something that they have to have for an emergent bilingual to be successful in the classroom. It's not something that they might just need just to get by, but it's something that they have to have. And so just kind of teaching them those data points to look at and looking at their years in schools and looking at their linguistic levels and kind of supporting them on how to support these specialized populations instead of just rushing to put them through RTI or MTSS.
I love that. Really tying it to, do we understand and know our students, right? And how can we connect that to the available data and background information that we have in order to better support our students? How do I find that? How do I look at it? How do I analyze that data? All right. I want to hear your perspective, Carolina, before we close up this question.
Yeah, I think I would add that a piece that is definitely missing, and that is something that our new teachers and even alternative certified teachers don't expect, are the technical, those transactional components of teaching. Like we can support them with instruction, with the theory, even resources, but some of them really struggle with the not so fun parts of the job, right? You have to produce some lesson plans, you have to document things, there is going to be a fire drill, there is going to be interactions with parents, and you're not prepared for those. So I think I would almost do like a crash course on those and say, hey, it's part of it, but you can get through it. And I think when they look up at those mentor teachers, seasoned teachers, veteran teachers that seem to be able to handle everything so beautifully, they feel like they can't do it. And I think an additional level of support and saying, these are things that come with the job, right? You love the kids, we love your passion and that you have that growth mindset. But these are some of those technical things that are part of the job too, and we just cannot go around them. But that's why it's so important, going back to the idea of community support and building those systems of support within a campus and at the district level are important, because that's something that I see affects our younger teachers. Like especially our younger teachers. I've seen teachers leaving within 1 or 2 years because it's like, this is too much. I went to school to teach, to work with the kids, to support the kids, and I have to do all of these other things. So I think that's the one piece that I would just add, and think that perhaps is something that we should also consider when thinking about teacher preparation programs and even alternative certification programs.
Love that. It's like the soft skills, right, Carolina? There's so much in between the mortar of those bricks of what we do as teachers and what that looks like. And, our teachers need really clear expectations for what we as a district or campus expect for you to do. But when we make those expectations, they have to be reasonable, right? We have to be reasonable about that and helping them to understand the why. Like you just said, Carolina, like I came to teach, right? So why is this documentation? How does that mesh up with my goal of wanting to teach children? So when we can help as district and campus leaders to make those connections of how this task ties to your why of serving your students, the more that it can really help to bridge all of those tasks that can seem sometimes overwhelming. Excellent. Woo, you guys, I'm loving this conversation. I don't know about you, but I'm having a great time hearing all of your perspectives. Well, we have one final question that we're going to utilize and take to the end of our discussion. And I'm going to toss it first to you, Megan. And that is, how can teachers be supported in implementing methods of instruction to support emergent bilingual students beyond just checking the box of certification? And you've already been touching on this already with how you coach teachers. So tell us a little more.
Yeah, so I really want to make it a point to have teachers understand that it takes EB learners about 1 to 2 years to learn social language and 5 to 7 years to learn academic language. And that's very important, knowing whenever you're in the classroom that your emergent bilingual student is not going to understand English right in the upcoming month. And so just really modeling those sheltered instruction strategies for teachers, coaching them on how to provide tier 1 accommodations for EBs based on their language levels instead of modifying the standards. We really want to ensure that we are changing how EBs learn instead of what they are learning.
Perfect. Yes, that reminder about we're accommodating, we're not modifying the instruction. That's so vital. We've been multiple times here. You just had talked about in the last question as well about that tier 1 instruction. You know, serving emerging bilingual students and linguistic access is straight equity. It's not an additional intervention, right? Bilingual and ESL programs are not interventions. They're equitable access to that same content, grade level content as other students. Rita, you're hitting this daily, those methods of instruction to support your emerging bilingual students. Tell us a little bit more how teachers can be supported in implementing those methods.
I think whenever a teacher is certified with being an ESL certified person, they have all this information here, but they have to take it and put it in the classroom. I think the best way to do that is to have a teacher, they can observe, pick a teacher to model probably within their own subject area who does this on a regular basis. And then when you deconstruct the classroom instruction, what part stood out to them? What are they most interested in? And start slow, like, okay, we want to do visual, with the vocabulary or whatever. Let them pick what they want and then practice, do it. Sit down with them in a lesson plan, look at their lesson plan and say, they'll say, well, what can I do differently? I said, this is great. However, let's add this to just a little bit more to it. And you're showing that they're experts, but they can just add a little bit more of their knowledge. And I think that modeling is so very important in recognizing that they are doing, are trying to implement, and just not one-time basis. This needs to go on like, let's try this, how about this, that kind of thing, that have that go-to teacher that they're comfortable with, that they don't mind asking questions. I think that supports like whenever I find something new, who do I call? Sarah. I call Sarah and say, okay, now, what do you think about this? I'll send her about 5 things. And then, I have someone I go to that I want to try. And usually it is Sarah. My community is a lot bigger than Lewisville, but
Love it.
Sarah kind of gets a lot of my questions.
I love it, man. That welcoming environment for teachers to know that they have someone to ask questions from, that they can see it modeled out, right, from other teachers. That's who they're going to respect the most, is their colleagues, who they can learn from and really see how that happens in, algebra, in physics, etc. Right? Really seeing that in action. And I love how you also really touched on really teacher-driven goals for their own professional growth and learning and implementing those pieces. Excellent, Rita. Emma, I want to toss it over to you. I mean, Region 10 provides so much support on ESL certification preparation. And how do we support teachers to make that, implement it?
Yeah, so I think, Rita definitely, had a jackpot with her answer. To support the teachers is to provide, professional learning that is intentional and that is going to meet their needs. How many times as a bilingual ESL teacher you have gone to a training that didn't really apply to the needs in your classroom, and then you left, instead of empower, you're like, oh, now how can I bring this back to my classroom? You feel like you have to start over, but just providing those authentic opportunities to really be in a training that is going to help you take those strategies right away. And I cannot even emphasize this enough. The main thing that we hear from teachers in our trainings are, I wish my assistant principal, I wish my principal was here in this training with me. Because we get the teachers, you're always willing to go to training, evenings, Saturdays, the summer, but then you get back and you don't feel that support from your administrators. So just trying to encourage leadership to not forget we all came from the classroom at some point, right? That's where we all started. Just trying to get back into the shoes of the teacher and just see, what is a day in the life of a teacher? Let's go back and try to support them so that they feel seen. They feel like, oh, you can provide me feedback because you were in that training right there with me. So how can I get you in the trenches? I think that is so critical so that the teachers then can have an open door and feel like you're coming in to just really see what's going on. It's not a punitive thing. Coaching is a really good support for them. And then another one, it's time. I know it sounds so easy, but it's just providing them that time to have a PLC, to have planning with other teachers if you don't have anybody else in your grade level, and time to just go and observe those classrooms, because, time is essential. So just providing them that opportunity. If you cannot send them to a training, or if you don't have a coach to come into your classroom, then providing that opportunity to just, be that community and do that, amongst the teachers in the building.
Love it. It's practical things, isn't it? Right? The systems that we construct will support implementation. If those aren't in place, then we're not really helping to make the professional learning actually take place. And I love how you also mentioned how important it is that our administrators are part of the same training, that they're hearing the same thing, because that's how that mindset is really shifted. And that's how teachers can actually be supported when the administrators know what they've heard, right? That's really powerful. So Carolina, I'm going to pass that to you then as, a district leader. How do we make this happen?
I think, some of the things that have been mentioned, I just love, right? Like that consistent systems of support and coaching. Once the teachers are certified, we just cannot leave them alone and say, you are done, you don't need to learn anything. And I think even research has changed so much over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years that gaining or earning a certification back in the day, it's not the same that today. So we need to keep them posted. We need to keep them informed. Also the why. I think there is so much policy behind the work that we do that they also need to understand the why we are doing, we're moving in a certain direction. So I think my themes are definitely communication and support and consistency for the work that we do on a daily basis, and really connecting. I mean, we are a rather small team and district, so we rely a lot on each other, but also on the supports and the relationship that we have with Region 10, and Emma is our favorite. So it's important to keep that communication and just the offerings, like let our teachers know what it's out there and some other things that they can take advantage of. And I think Rita also mentioned that connection to the campus leadership. It's really important for us also as a central level team to engage our campuses and campus leaders, because that's the only way they are going to be able to support the teachers at the campus level as well. If you don't know what your teachers are doing, what they are learning, and what they are their needs, it's going to be very difficult to support them. So systems of support.
Love that. Building those systems of support, that mindset of growth, constantly refining, that word that you use there, really powerful. Terri, I want to pass it to you as well as a district leader. Talk about what you think.
A lot of what's already been said, making sure we have the coaching, because we do know that ESL certification doesn't make you prepared to do what you need to do. I think it's about intentionality too. It's about really intentional planning and targeting, and then also making sure you give teachers time. Because you can go to a great training, but if you don't have time to come back and think through it and time to really intentionally implement it, then that training doesn't go anywhere. So making sure that when you do have the training and the coaching, that you just really give teachers time to think through and to implement, and then see how and the modeling and in the classroom walkthroughs and looking and seeing how it's intentional in other teachers' classrooms.
Love it. That intentional. What a powerful word. It can be the hinge that really changes things, right? Not just knowing, but being intentional with implementation. Peggy, I'll let you close up this question.
Sure, everybody said everything. That's fabulous. I think I'll just add, I love the idea of watching other educators that Rita and others said, but I'll just add, I remember being a bilingual teacher and working with newcomers and not having any curriculum. And so to me, that's my trauma from is just not having anything and making it. And so just fostering a culture of sharing, like people are talking about, is great. In addition to providing with curriculum when it's available, having a bigger toolkit is just great. And then sending teachers to conferences is always fabulous. And then, I really liked the community of practice that you ran with TEA. I think it was aimed more at leadership, but I thought it was a good paradigm of just lateral knowledge sharing and then curating that so that it didn't just go away when the event was over. So that sustained ongoing sharing, to me, is where we're at in the digital age. So yeah.
I love that. Yeah. How can we as campus and district leaders, instructional coaches, facilitate the shared knowledge of our teachers and staff, rather than just feeling like we have to pour in, have them share that knowledge across each other, right? And facilitating that and finding a way to maintain it. All right, this is how we're going to close it up, is Each panelist, I want you just to give me either one word or phrase that you can think of right now based on our full conversation that encompasses how do we elevate the role of our teachers of emergent bilinguals. So I'm going to let you just popcorn it. And when you're ready, unmute and share your word or phrase. Go for it, Peggy. I saw you just unmuted. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah. Resources.
Collaboration.
Modeling.
Intentional support.
Systems.
Coaching.
Oh, can you hear me now? Okay. Did we get everybody? Okay, I think we did. Wow, what a great discussion today, everyone. Thank you to each of the panelists for your time, and thank you to everyone's participation in the chat. I know I learned and just felt so empowered through this conversation. So Sarah, do you want to close it out?
Yes, just thank you, Carly. Yes, thank you, our panelists. This was such a great conversation. Man, so much to think about. And so I just feel inspired to just continue to make good things happen for our teachers and for our students. And I have one more giveaway. Da, 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 da. Like our impressive giveaway music. It is to Joanna Franco. Hi, Joanna. Congratulations. She's won our gift certificate to a restaurant. So congratulations,
Thank you so much.
Joanna.
Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Yay.
Yeah,
So thank you.
I'm trying to. Thank you.
I'll be in touch, Joanna. I'll get your address so we can mail that to you. Thank you, Carly.
Perfect.
Thank you, all of our board members, all of our panelists. We have another chance for our final giveaways in our special interest group meetings that are starting next at 3 o'clock. So there's one for elementary, there's one for secondary, and there's one for higher ed. Y'all pick one of those meetings, join in and participate, and you'll have another chance to win those Amazon gift cards. So you don't want to miss it. Thank you again, Carly. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your leadership and all you do for all of us as educators and are still doing. We appreciate you being here today at TexTESOL 5. And thanks, everybody. Grab another coffee if you need it, a snack, restroom break, and we'll see you in those interest group meetings. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Bye, everybody.